Excalibur is a 1981 epic medieval fantasy film directed, co-written and produced by John Boorman, that retells the legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, based loosely on the 15th-century Arthurian romance Le Morte d'Arthur by Thomas Malory. The film is named after the legendary sword of King Arthur that features prominently in Arthurian literature. Plot: in the Dark Ages, the sorcerer Merlin, played by Nicol Williamson, retrieves the magical sword Excalibur from the Lady of the Lake for Uther Pendragon, played by Gabriel Byrne. Merlin also agrees to help Uther seduce Igraine, played by Katrine Boorman, the wife of Duke of Cornwall, played by Corin Redgrave, in exchange for what issues from your lust. With Merlin's magic, Uther tricks Igraine into sleeping with him while Cornwall dies in battle. Her daughter Morgana, young, played by Barbara Byrne, however, sees through Uther's illusion. 9 months later, Igraine gives birth to Arthur, and Merlin comes for the boy. Furious, Uther chases after Merlin, but gets ambushed by Cornwall's surviving men. Before dying, Uther thrusts Excalibur into a large stone. Merlin declares that he who pulls the sword from the stone shall be king. Years later, Arthur, played by Nigel Terry, pulls Excalibur from the stone, proving he is Uther's son, the rightful ruler. Arthur's bravery and prowess at combat make him earn the trust of knights Leodegrans, played by Patrick Stewart, and Uriens, played by Keith Buckley, who swear fealty to the young king. During this time, Arthur also meets Guinevere, played by Sherry Lunghyper, and is smitten by her. Later, the undefeated knight Lancelot, played by Nicholas Clay, blocks a bridge, seeking a king worthy of his sword. He defeats the king's knights and gets challenged by Arthur to a fight. With the aid of Excalibur and the Lady of the Lake, played by Hilary Joyal, Arthur is victorious, and Lancelot swears allegiance to him. Arthur and his knights unify the land. Arthur creates the Round Table, commissions the building of his castle Camelot, and marries Guinevere. Meanwhile, his half-sister Morgana, played by Helen Mirren, becomes apprenticed to Merlin. Influenced by Morgana's magic, Gawain, played by Liam Neeson, accuses Guinevere of treachery in a duel over her innocence is set. While Arthur is judge of the trial, Lancelot fights for her honor and wins. Guinevere is moved by this, and the two make love. Arthur finds out about it and spitefully thrusts Excalibur into the ground between them. Merlin's magical link to the land impales him on the sword, and Morgana seizes the opportunity to trap him and steal his secret charm of making. Taking the form of Guinevere, she seduces the unknowing Arthur. She later births a son, Mordred, played by Robert Addy, whose incestuous origin strikes the land with famine and sickness. Struck by a magical bolt of lightning, Arthur is reduced to a weakened state. He sends his knights on a quest for the Holy Grail in hopes of restoring the land and himself. While searching, many knights die or are bewitched by Morgana into entering her service. After reaching adulthood, Mordred demands Arthur's crown, to no avail. Before coldly rebuking Arthur's attempt to recognize him as his son, Mordred vows to return with an army and take Camelot by force. Perceval, played by Paul Jeffrey, resists Morgana's attacks and, before long, he is the final remaining knight questing for the Grail. Along the way, he nearly drowns and is transported to where the Grail is kept. He proves worthy, gains the Grail and takes it back to Arthur, who drinks from it and is revitalized, along with the land. Arthur calls upon his stepbrother Kay, played by Neil O'Brien, to rally his remaining forces to battle Mordred and Morgana. Arthur finds Guinevere at a convent, and they reconcile. She gives him back Excalibur, which she had kept, and he rides off with his men. At Stonehenge, Arthur falls asleep, and his love liberates Merlin from Morgana's magical prison. After a final conversation with Arthur, Merlin appears to Morgana and tricks her into speaking the charm of making. This exhausts her magical powers and summons a mist that envelopes her camp and the battlefield. Mordred discovers her aged, true self and murders her in disgust. Arthur and his men wage war on Mordred's forces, using the mist in their favor. During the battle, Lancelot arrives, reconciles with Arthur and dies fighting. Arthur manages to kill Mordred, but the fight leaves him mortally wounded. While slowly dying, he commands Perceval, the only other survivor, to throw Excalibur into a lake, knowing that one day the sword will rise again when a worthy king comes to power. Perceval complies, and the Lady of the Lake catches the sword, dragging it into the depths. Perceval returns to the battlefield in time to glimpse Arthur being carried away on a ship, sailing towards his rest on Avalon. About the film. The film directed, co-written and produced by John Boorman. Rosbo Paulenberg and John Boorman wrote the screenplay. Excalibur draws its inspiration from various Arthurian legends and tales. The screenplay based loosely on the 15th century Arthurian romance Le Morte d'Arthur by Thomas Malory. Cast including Nigel Terry as Arthur, Nicol Williamson as Merlin, Nicholas Clay as Lancelot, Sherry Lungi as Guinevere, Helen Mirren as Morgana, Liam Neeson as Gawain, Gabriel Byrne as Uther and Patrick Stewart as Leondegrance. Excalibur was produced by Orion Pictures and Cinema 84, and distributed by Warner Brothers. Excalibur was primarily filmed on location in Ireland, including sites such as Derrynane in County Kerry and County Wicklow. The lush landscapes and ancient ruins of Ireland provided a fitting backdrop for the mystical tale of King Arthur. The production aimed for a realistic portrayal of the Arthurian era, incorporating authentic costumes, props, and weaponry. The musical score for Excalibur was composed by Trevor Jones. The soundtrack captures the epic and magical atmosphere of the film, featuring sweeping orchestral pieces and choral arrangements. The music adds depth and emotion to the storytelling, enhancing the fantastical elements and dramatic moments of the plot. Excalibur was released on April 10, 1981, in the United States. The film received a wide theatrical release, allowing audiences to experience the medieval world of King Arthur and his knights on the big screen. The film received generally positive reviews from critics upon its release. The film was praised for its visually stunning cinematography, intricate set designs, and memorable performances. The blending of myth and fantasy with a dark and gritty tone was applauded, as it added a unique and compelling twist to the Arthurian legend. Excalibur opened at number 1 in the United States, eventually grossing $34,967,437 on a budget of around $11 million to rank 18th in that year's receipts. The film won the award for Best Artistic Contribution at the 1981 Cannes Film Festival, and received an Oscar nomination for Best Cinematography and a BAFTA nomination for Best Costume Design. In 1982 Excalibur received several nominations and won the award for Best Costume Design at the 1982 Saturn Awards. Excalibur has had a lasting legacy in the realm of fantasy cinema. It is often regarded as one of the definitive adaptations of the Arthurian legend, capturing the essence and grandeur of the medieval mythos. The film's visual style and innovative approach to the source material have influenced subsequent fantasy films and television series. Its impact on the genre can be seen in later works such as Game of Thrones and The Lord of the Rings trilogy. Excalibur remains a beloved and iconic film, appreciated for its ambitious storytelling, memorable characters, and timeless themes. 10 interesting facts about Excalibur movie. 1. Excalibur marked the feature film directorial debut of John Boorman. 2. The initial fight scene had to be filmed 3 times. It was filmed at night, and all of the film came out underexposed the first 2 times, due to a fault in the exposure meter. The cameraman had a nervous breakdown over the issue and quit. 3. Sir John Boorman was originally aiming at making a movie based on The Lord of the Rings. However, he did not acquire the rights, and decided to make this movie instead. 4. The original cut of this movie was over 3 hours long. 5. Excalibur was praised for its realistic and intense battle sequences, showcasing the brutal nature of medieval warfare. 6. John Boorman wanted the film to be called Merlin, but CBS had the rights to the name through their own series of the same name. The movie started shooting under the name Knights, but Ridley Scott had the rights to the Knight movie name. In the end, the movie was called Excalibur. 7. Max von Sydow was originally cast as Merlin, but United Artists told John Boorman that he could cast anyone as Merlin except Nicol Williamson. 8. Excalibur was Helen Mirren's breakout movie role. 9. Excalibur was a box office success, earning over $34 million worldwide. 10. The film received multiple award nominations and won the National Board of Review Award for Best Supporting Actor for Nicol Williamson's performance as Merlin.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more interesting videos and don't forget to press like button and share.